Hello, I'm the Nostalgia Critic guy. Remember it so you don't have to. We all have those holiday specials we love, even if they're not really the best. Whether it be nostalgia, creativity, or some sort of surreal intrigue, we all have those specials we know aren't fantastic, but something nonetheless draws us to them. They're not good enough to be classics, but they're not bad enough to go unappreciated either. There's a certain magic to these specials that keeps us coming back, and this Halloween, we're gonna look at what it is here today. So get ready to cheer with adequacy. We're looking at the top 11 best ones. Why top 11? Because I like to go one step beyond. So, sit back and enjoy the top 11 Halloween guilty pleasures. Number 11. Tiny Toons Night Ghoulery. The reason I put this one so low on the list is because, well, it's mostly pretty good. Released shortly after Tiny Toons went off the air and Animaniacs was catching on. In fact, there's even a few cameos from him.
Give me the brain!
Obvious nature of this pun belittles us all.
This satirizes every ghouly thing you can think of. Night Gallery, Twilight Zone, Casper, Edgar Allan Poe, Nightmare Before Christmas. Anything and everything Halloween. And the writing is some of the show's best. These satires are right up there with Mel Brooks or the Zucker brothers. For example, they do a parody of the Spielberg film Duel, about a trucker who randomly tries to kill a guy. When the driver looks in a bar to see if he can spot the trucker, he actually spots the truck itself having a drink. That is incredibly clever. There's also introductions to classic literature with some of the best visuals the show ever pulled out. The attention to detail in what they're satirizing is beyond obsessive. It's amazing how similar they are to the original source material. So you might be wondering, why is it on this list at all? Well, a few sketches maybe are a little too smart for their own good. Like the Terror at 20,000 Feet parody is literally nothing but Star Trek jokes. Get it? Because it's Star Shatner? Even some of the impressions are a little hard to get. I'm still not sure who this is supposed to be.
You ever wonder what exactly they mean by more?
Tim Conway? All three of my fans who remember him? Nevertheless, it's not nearly enough to take away from appreciating this fun collection of beautifully animated zaniness. The misses are minor, but the hits are just too good to overlook. As of now, there's sadly no DVD release of this special, but if you can hunt it down on VHS, do it. It's definitely worth the search.
It's time to do adventures, and that's all we've got.
Tito's costumes sure were hot.
Number 10. The Halloween That Almost Wasn't. This is about as low budget as TV specials get, but they do still manage to make the most of it. Dracula summons all the famous movie monsters together for Halloween, but the witch is fed up with Dracula's treatment of them and goes on strike if he doesn't start playing nice. He refuses, leading to a wild goose chase of him and the other monsters trying to force her to change her mind. It's about as silly as it sounds, but what makes it enjoyable are the performances. This isn't any kind of great writing, but everyone's dedication to their character is really something to be admired. Judd Hirsch does a surprisingly hilarious Dracula voice.
I will get even with you for this, Igor, if it takes me 1,000 years. And I know how to make you live that long.
And Mariette Hartley is great as his cynical nemesis.
Out of my way, Shorty.
To say it's laughably cheesy would be an understatement. Hell, it ends with a disco party. But it's surprisingly heavy on atmosphere and even manages to get in a few laughs here and there. For something obviously intended for little kids, there's just enough bizarreness and, of course, love for Halloween that makes it a fun little goofy tale. It's like a G-rated Monster Squad. Which is strange, the adult film stars kids, but the kid film stars adults? But you get the idea. If you're in the mood for something awkward, but enjoyably awkward, this is definitely worth a watch.
It's one of those days I wish I was dead, and stay dead.
Number 9. The Pumpkin That Couldn't Smile. Yeah, that's Raggedy Ann and Andy who star in it, but to its credit, it turns out a very laid-back and kind of likable short with a lot of great fall visuals. An overbearing aunt keeps her nephew in for Halloween, ruining his fun, so our two ragdolls decide to bring Halloween to him by finding a glum pumpkin who feels unwanted. I know it sounds pretty lame on the surface, but throw in animation great Chuck Jones into the mix, as well as some legendary voice actors, and it turns out an enjoyably cute product. There's lines that certainly aren't laugh-out-loud funny, but are still clever enough to know there was more effort put into this than there really needed to be.
And tomorrow we'll go to the museum and look at the rocks.
Why couldn't I have been an apple? People don't expect so much out of apples.
Little giggles like that and the pumpkin crying seeds are nice little touches that aren't needed for a story like this, but still add a little extra. The best way I can describe this special is mellow. It is just so mellow. Everything goes at a very relaxed speed. Even the chase scene in the middle is much slower than most cartoon chases go. But there's something kinda chill about it, and I mean that actually in the best way. It's not trying to punch you in the face like most Halloween specials. It's more enjoying a beautiful autumn dawn, just admiring the colors and the environment. I don't know, if you're in the right mood, it's actually pretty cool to check out. By no means a masterpiece of animation, but just comforting enough to warrant a quick watch if you got the time.
I could have gone in another line of work. Been a pie or something.
Number 8. Witch's Night Out. An odd special to say the least, but it's 70s odd, which should practically be given its own category. To say its style is friggin' bizarre is beyond obvious, but the way it's bizarre makes it hard to turn away from. It centers around a witch, played by Gilda Radner, who feels her powers of scaring have dwindled down to nothing. But she hears a little boy and a little girl wishing they could be scary themselves, and so she transforms them and their babysitter into classic spooks. Of course, things get out of control, and it's a crazy race to try to set things back right again. Everything that makes this special unique is the time period it was released in. I mean, look at it. How could this come from any other time period but the 70s? From the groovy music to the squiggly designs and even the voice acting being really fucking weird.
I hate Halloween! Blah!
Yeah, malicious.
It's in a world all its own. Something about these kind of specials have an almost hypnotic power to them. I remember watching it not thinking it was really anything great, but at the same time, I didn't want to change the channel. I never felt like I was being manipulated or sold anything. I just felt like a crazy person was telling a crazy story in a crazy way. And oddly enough, I was curious how crazy it could get. It's not too trippy that you can't follow it, but it's also not too bound to the world of the normal. It's just cosmically insane enough to hold one's interest after coming off a sugar high every Halloween.
That's Halloween. Witch magic Halloween.
Number 7. Corpse Bride. People are kinda split on whether or not this is a good movie, but no one can deny it's dripping with gothic atmosphere that made Nightmare Before Christmas a classic. The story about a young man who accidentally proposes to a dead bride is refreshingly original, as well as refreshingly strange. It's nice to see a story like this that feels a little bit like a fairy tale but isn't a reboot or a remake. It's something completely out of the mind of someone else. The look also very cleverly satirizes the Victorian era as showing it being more dead and unlively than the world of the dead. An interesting idea that you don't really start living until you give up everything you thought mattered. With that said, it is flawed, with a boring villain, bland leads, and sometimes clumsy delivery. It's strange too that I find myself getting more expression out of Jack Skellington, who has no eyes, and yet so little expression out of Johnny Depp's character, who has huge eyes. I think that's because even though they're big, they change very little, and once combined with a tiny mouth that also allows for very little expression, you don't get much variety out of their reactions, which makes them harder to relate to. But, like I said, there's still a lot of great stuff that makes it worth a glance. It has new songs from Danny Elfman, a lot of great actors, and naturally, it looks amazing. This is one of Tim Burton's best looking films, and that's saying a lot given his lineup. Flowing animation and original subject matter makes it maybe not Coraline or Paranorman, but still an interesting flick to check out. Number 6. Grinch Night. As much as I've praised Dr. Seuss, I'll be the first to say, just like anyone, he didn't always turn in gold. Grinch Night was a follow-up to The Grinch Who Stole Christmas and tried to become a staple of Halloween the same way the other one became a staple of Christmas. It didn't really work. The story made little sense, it was hard for younger kids to follow, and it just didn't seem very focused. However, However, that doesn't mean a lot of really cool things didn't come from it. Seeing Dr. Seuss take on a dark fall night during Halloween is about as awesome as it sounds. And the whole last third is just an acid trip into the tricks and frights that the Grinch is going to unload on the town. It's about as trippy as it gets and might even get a few scares out of little kids, which I think is the idea. The imagery is surreal and breathtaking. This is obviously an excuse just to get out some dark and twisted artwork, but it's so wonderfully creative that you're kind of okay with it. Look at this stuff. Who else could come up with this but Dr. Seuss? The short's not terrible by any means, it just doesn't feel like it had a reason to exist. But for what it's worth, it's one of the most amazing looking pointless outings ever. Definitely feeding you some visual eye candy. Watch the opening for atmosphere, stay for the trip out near the end. It's a Grinchy Grinch time, to say the least.
I wouldn't go out on a night like this for $1.50.
Number 5. Garfield's Halloween Adventure. What can you say? It's Garfield. How can you go wrong with him? Shut up! It's our favorite fat cat roaming the town trying to get candy while coming across a band of ghost pirates searching for their lost stolen treasure. The pirates aren't even really that scary, but the time they take to build them up by having a creepy old man tell their story is just the right amount of corny and creepy for most kids. But that's not what makes it rewatchable. What brings us back is Lorenzo Music as Garfield. I swear that voice is so infectious at being both lazy and energized at the same time.
Candy, 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 candy. Steady yourself, Garfield.
He has the cranky cynicism of an adult, but the greeny hyperactiveness of a child.
Dogs have to help cats go out and get candy, and if a dog does a good job, he gets a whole piece of candy of his very own.
The special also has a lot of little funny touches too, like how many various ways they can show a monster disguise is really a monster disguised.
The one thing he's not is a scary cat.
The animation is low budget and sometimes the timing can be off, but there's just a passion and a love for Halloween that makes it hard not to put on again. Always good to celebrate this time of year with a little orange and black.
Nice touch.
Number 4. The Halloween Tree. How often do you come across a Halloween special that actually teaches you something? Well, that's exactly what this one does, and it surprisingly does it very well. Based on the story by Ray Bradbury, the soul of a friend is lost on Halloween night, and it's up to his friends to try and get him back, along with the help of a ghoulish creature played by the late Leonard Nimoy. Though by God, you would never recognize him.
It's old time, children. Ancient times.
As they travel through time of Halloween's past, they come across the origins of their classic costumes and figure out how it got associated with the holiday. And as you'd imagine, it's actually pretty interesting. On top of that, for a Hanna-Barbera production, it looks pretty damn good. We always associate Hanna-Barbera with the Flintstones and cheap animation, but here, the backgrounds and shadows are so crisp and so clear, allowing for a lot of great Halloween imagery. Does it have problems? Yeah, it can be really corny and a little too obvious, as well as kind of repetitive. Just count how many times this kid says, "oh my gosh." But the payoff is certainly enough to give it some attention. It's great to enjoy all the awesome things about the holiday, but it's also good to know sometimes where they came from. And the special shows that in a very inventive way. In a world where education can be scary, this is a special that tones down the frights and ups the learning. But amazingly, in a good way. Number 3. Monster House. Another really original idea that's so simple and yet most people never forget it. It's about exactly what you think, a monster house. One that gobbles up anybody who walks by and pisses it off. While imaginative, you would think it would get old really quick, but there's actually a pretty clever story that has a few twists and turns in it. It's not overly complicated, but it's not insultingly simple either. It's just the right balance of a dark and twisted story with goofy and likable characters. And of course, visually, they up the darkness. Skinny trees, scary faces, people in peril, it has a lot of fun. At times it can be a little slow and the character animation can be a little awkward given the time period it came out, but the various ways they show off this house and change it around to make everyday objects suddenly look intimidating is really cool. It's a good combination of being both creepy and odd, but also sweet and innocent at the same time, with just the right amount of an edge for a kid's film.
Do you want to be eaten alive? No! Get out of here!
It's another flick you have to praise for its originality and its dedication to an idea. It's not Laugh Riot or anything, but there's enough in it to keep coming back for a few more housewarmings. Number 2. Trick or Treat. So on the one hand, there really isn't a lot to this movie. It always feels like there's better twists and executions that an anthology of Halloween tales could deliver than this. They're kind of predictable and not always the most original. But with that said, Trick or Treat is just straight up Halloween porn. I mean, before it was straight up Halloween porn. When you really think about all the horror films that we watch on Halloween, there surprisingly aren't that many that have much Halloween in it. Even Halloween doesn't have a whole lot of Halloween. It's actually kind of odd. But with this movie, it's in every corner. Foreground, background, werewolves, witches, trick-or-treaters, ghosts. This movie is just crawling with Halloween. And on top of that, they know how to shoot Halloween. Everything looks warped and strange with a lot of great angles and dark shadows. But there's also a fair amount of color in it too. The right colors, Halloween colors. If you were to ask me what this film was about, I probably couldn't remember very well. But if you were to ask me what it looked like, I can just tell you it looked like Halloween. I guess it's kind of like the Halloween 3 of its day. Not much on scares, but a shit ton of sugar-coated visual madness. They even throw in some new monsters, like this killer trick-or-treating kid is actually kind of an original idea. Most movies it's the trick-or-treater being chased. It's not usually the trick-or-treater doing the chasing. It's hard to know what else to say about it. It just obviously loves the holiday as much as the rest of us do. And it's hard to fault it for that. Hell, I appreciate it for it. It really is a fun flick to watch, if only just to watch it. You could put it on mute and still get a satisfying surge of Halloween from beginning to end. It just fills you up with that awesome feeling while still having that intense edge. It's not a perfect film, but it's a perfect exploitation of everyone's favorite night. And the number one Halloween guilty pleasure is... No, I'm not doing that one. I'm not doing it. Look, that's a dumb film. It's a stupid fucking film. Okay, look, I don't care if most of you watch this piece of crap every Halloween and it's like a big tradition, okay? I'm not doing it. I'm just not talking about it. It's shit. It's a stupid piece of shit and I'm not gonna bring it up here. Okay, look, if there's a Halloween guilty pleasure that you watch every year and I didn't bring it up, go ahead, leave it in the comments below. But there is no way I am talking about this piece of fuck. Especially in the next review. Hey guys, Doug Walker here doing the charity shout out. As some of you may or may not know, one of our former producers, Lindsay Ellis, recently lost her father to Parkinson's disease. In lieu of flowers, she has invited people to make donations to the Michael J. Fox Foundation. So that is the charity that we are doing this week. The Michael J. Fox Foundation, as many of you know, is a foundation trying to make breakthroughs in curing Parkinson's disease. They try to raise awareness, they try to get more information about the disease to people who don't know that much about it, but most importantly, they put their research to work. They use it to try and make new drugs to help people with the disease, they do everything in their power to try and create easier ways of living with it. They have fundraiser after fundraiser and all sorts of events that get in so much money and get so much work accomplished, but as you know, we're still not at the point where we can cure it yet. There have been so many stories of so many people that have gone through so much hardship from this disease. The pain so many of these people have to go through is so emotional and so gut-wrenching, but at the same time it's a reminder of just how real this disease is and how hard we have to work to find a cure for it. Michael J. Fox has done a wonderful job drawing attention to this cause, getting more and more people involved, and on top of that, if you go to their YouTube site, you can see what they do with their time, where all the effort and money goes into. Just spending a few minutes watching a few videos, you can see this is definitely a good place. A place where people work endlessly to try and get to a day where we can live without this disease. It's something people should never have to go through, and so many people are trying so hard to create a world where they don't have to go through it. So please definitely take the time to check out the website, look up some information, watch the videos, see the good work that they're doing, and take a part in helping by making a donation. This is a cure that can happen with your help.